All Blacks dominating NRL? How? This Kiwi export isn't Taika Waititi, beef and lamb or Irish rugby players. It's the All Blacks winning culture. It's awoken the sleeping NRL giant in Western Sydney and transformed the Penrith Panthers into an unstoppable force. How did a rugby union powerhouse shape a rugby league team? This tale is as fascinating as a Benji Marshall sidestep. Let's start at the beginning. It's 2005 and Ivan Cleary lands back in Auckland, little family in tow. Little did he know, his second Kiwi adventure, this time as an assistant coach, would plant the seeds for the Panthers dynasty. Who was his mentor at the Warriors? Former All Blacks coach John Hart. 2006, young Ivan is thrust into the head coaching role. John Hart became a mentor to Ivan. Who better than an All Blacks coach to help with the demands of pro footy? Hart was quoted as saying about Cleary, "I'm probably his greatest fan. I've worked with him for 6 years, we're very close, and I just think he's an outstanding coach." John called Ivan a generational talent in the ilk of Rugby League great Wayne Bennett. John even wrote the foreword to Ivan's autobiography. After his side lost the 2011 grand final, Ivan sadly moved on from the Warriors. Ivan had a rookie half, Sean Johnson, and each year the Warriors fly the most out of all NRL teams.
Johnson still going. Dummies again, Johnson. Gets it away to Brown. Brown goes.
The grand final loss wasn't enough for Warriors management. They only offered Ivan a 2-year extension instead of the 3 Ivan asked for. John was shattered, and looking back today, I'm sure Warriors fans are too. You'll see why later. Fast forward to 2019, Ivan's back for his second stint at Penrith. Things aren't clicking, the team's struggling, the fans are restless, they have Rugby League's greatest nursery. When was their last title? 2003. Ivan was under fire for leaving the Tigers early to be with his son Nathan at the foot of the Blue Mountains. Where does he turn? His connections to the most dominant team in world rugby, of course, the mighty All Blacks.
Probably followed the All Blacks lead, clearly the best team for probably 20 years, but they only won one World Cup at that point. Probably going back to 2011, they were struggling with pressure. Yeah, and they used the red-blue model. Like Kerry Evans.
And perhaps as a team today, we were a second best team.
Now, if you're scratching your head wondering what the heck a red-blue model is, don't worry. It's not a new COVID vaccine or recreational drug. It's a mental skills approach that helps players perform under pressure. And boy, did it work for the Panthers. Remember the All Blacks 2003 World Cup exit. 4 more years, George Gregan yelled. The 2007 Cardiff calamity. John Hart was in charge at the 1999 exit.
France have beaten the All Blacks.
New Zealand Rugby, after 3 successive failed World Cup runs, identified the All Blacks simply weren't prepared for the pressure. Where were the alternative game plans? Communication, drop goals. The red-blue model developed a way for the All Blacks to refocus on the small tasks in the white-hot pressure of finals World Cup rugby.
Head off to Graham Henry and his coaching staff and management staff. They knew that we needed to look at this, so they brought Kerry in. He said, this is why you feel pressure. There's high expectations, a lot of scrutiny, and there's big consequences.
To keep talking and keep problem solving even when it felt like a loss would be the only result. Has it worked for the All Blacks? You'd have to give it a resounding green light. Since the 2007 quarter-final exit, there's probably only one game they've been comfortably beaten, 2023 against the Box at Twickenham.
It's over. Well, it's been dominant from the Springboks, especially up front.
Maybe the 2019 semi-final against England and the 2009 losses in South Africa, something you can't say about any other team. Even their losses this year were close ones they should have won. But Cleary didn't stop there. Sure, the NRL's full of Kiwis, but the boys from the Ref built a team that would make any All Blacks fan proud. Let's break it down. First up, James Fisher-Harris, the Kiwis captain, one of the NRL's most feared and respected players. This guy hits as hard as Sonny Bill and runs straighter than Dan Carter's goal kicks. His bash brother, Moses Leota, another Kiwi bruiser with ballerina-like feet at the line like Ma Nonu. And let's not forget Scott Sorensen, the man who chucked his penny back on before getting a surprise call to join the Panthers. Nick Minute. 4 grand final rings. These forwards bring that hard-nosed, no-nonsense Kiwi attitude to every game. But what about their backs, you ask? Well, hold on to your Tino Rangatiratanga flags, because this is where it gets really interesting. Nathan Cleary, Ivan's son, the Prince of Penrith, spent his formative years in New Zealand. He grew up idolising players like Dan Carter and Shaun Johnson. Nathan's not just a fan though, he's taken his admiration for Kiwi rugby to the next level. The Prince of Penrith spent time with the legend himself, Dan Carter, working on his kicking and mental preparation. Nathan gushes about the experience.
His processes, like, it was just fluent. Like, he'd become so, I guess, accustomed to it, and it just become like who he was. Obviously, growing up in New Zealand as well, it's just like something that was just superhuman. So I was like sweating, like nervous to talk to him.
But wait, there's more. Jarome Luai, part 2 of probably the NRL's greatest ever halves pairing, has Māori heritage through his mother. His father's birthplace, New Zealand of course. It's like the rugby gods themselves orchestrated this Kiwi takeover of the NRL.
Then Luai, the Pink Panthers, razzle-dazzle to score.
Jerome partnered up with All Black ace First 5 Richie Mo'unga to defeat the Maroons earlier this year. The dropouts from his own line, they had Richie's fingerprints all over them. Now you might be thinking, surely it's just a coincidence that the Panthers have so many Kiwi connections. Sure, there are tons of Kiwi NRL players and families that have moved to Australia, but hang on to your Puanamu pendants while you're doing your haka on your European OE, because the similarities don't stop there. The Panthers play a style of rugby that would make Graham Henry shed a tear. They're clinical, physical, and tactically astute.
So a few players lose their footing. Nathan most recently. He's just unbelievable, isn't he? He's like a...
They grind out wins in the mud or run riot on a dry track. Sound familiar? It's like watching Richie McCaw's 2011 to 2015 All Blacks in league jerseys, even their Panthers black. And let's talk about winning streaks. The Panthers have 4 premierships in a row and show few signs of slowing down. They're the best NRL team since the 1960s. It's the kind of dominance we've come to expect from the men in black. NRL salary cap, no problem. Heavy player turnover, no worries, bro. Speaking of Western Sydney, let's address the elephant in the room. The Panthers have tapped into a talent pool that rivals the suburban Auckland and Wellington breeding grounds. Think of Jonah Lomu, Jerome Kaino, Ma Nonu, and the Safia brothers. The country and metropolitan kids is as dreamy a combo as a steak and cheese pie. Isaiah Yeo is the macaw of the team. Immaculate technique, super fit and respected by everyone. The Ben Smith of the team, Dylan Edwards. Bounces off defenders like a pinball machine, super fit and the ultimate all-round outside back.
Go to the short side again. Cleary for Edwards. They opened up very meek.
But it's not just about the players. The Panthers have embraced the All Blacks' holistic approach to team culture. They've worked on mental skills, just like the ABs did with Kerry Evans. They've focused on humility and sweeping the sheds. Nathan said, "I think it got made famous by the All Blacks in saying that we pride ourselves on just respecting everything. Everyone, I've read a bit of it, you always want to learn off the best, and there's no better than the All Blacks." Ivan and other NRL coaches always spend time with All Blacks coaches, soaking up that winning mentality like a sponge in a bucket of Steinlager. It's a cross-code pollination that would have been unthinkable a few decades ago. The old notion of the working man's game and the educated man's game, irrelevant to these genius footy minds. They're all chasing the same thing: success, helping young fellas maximise their limited footy careers and making their communities proud. If that means borrowing a few plays from the All Blacks playbook? Well, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? And finally, drugs. Let's face it, even the staunchest NRL fan will admit there's a massive problem with recreational and some performance-enhancing drugs. The Panthers and the All Blacks, though, barely a squeak in that department. So, there you have it, folks, the boys from the Riff. The foot of the Blue Mountains. Modern NRL's greatest team, built on the foundations of All Blacks culture. They've got the Kiwi players, the mental toughness, the clinical execution, and the winning mentality. It's enough to make you wonder, is this the future of rugby league? Will we see more teams following the Panthers' lead and embracing the All Blacks way? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the black jersey's influence extends far beyond the boardrooms in Wellington. So, the next time you watch a Panthers game, listen closely. You might just hear the faint strains of Kapa o Pango floating across Western Sydney. We wouldn't have it any other way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us which All Blacks you'd like to see in your favourite NRL team and vice versa.
The All Blacks. Loose pass by Perenara. Here goes Ioane. What a sight this is. He's got Perenara.
For me, Akira Ioane would be another kick out.
I think he's going to go all the way here. Rico Ioane, what a try. Yeah!
Rieko, the Kiwis' Greg Inglis. I hope you have a blessed day.